Okay, good evening to all of you. I am really very happy to welcome you, all of you, for this 1 hour session on the basics of Six Sigma. So, thanks for all of you for coming together this time and joining this session. So, I will just give you a brief introduction about my company. Then I will give a small introduction about myself, and then I will just set the context. What is the purpose of holding this session? And then I will just run through the session for almost around 50-55 minutes. And then finally, last 2-3 minutes, I will allocate for explaining you what are the services being provided by us and what is the special reasons why you can consider taking training with us. And because a lot of participants are expected to join this session, unfortunately, there will not be any possibility for you to raise any questions because in that case, it will divert the entire attention of myself as well as the different participants. So even if you have any problem in uh, getting the audio or video not clearly also, I cannot help it because I have employed one of my relatives here at my house. So I am just giving a continuous feedback about whether people are able to get the see the screen and they are able to hear it. So that feedback is always coming to me. So in case you are unable to hear or you are unable to see the screen, maybe there is something problem at your end. So in that case, I think you need to bear with me for problem and try to solve the problem at your end. So if there is any problem at my end, then I will just try to come through chat and then tell that there is. So with this small introduction, I will just start the session with giving a brief introduction about my company. Okay, so my company name is Ice Cubes. So it is a Chennai-based company. It is based in Chennai in India, and it is a process improvement consultancy company. It was started in the year 2015, and the services being offered by our company. The first one is the Lean Six Sigma and PMP implementation. So we just cater to our customers like MNCs like Amazon. You would have heard about Amazon. So they are into the supply chain management. Then Dices, so they are a US-based company and they are into HR recruiting. Then Rocket, they are a French-based multinational company manufacturing stock, starch, and they are the largest starch manufacturers in the world. And then the Abraj Energy Services in Oman, they are also one of our esteemed customers. So we cater to MNCs, big companies like all those companies, whatever we are seeing in the screen. Then the second service, whatever we are offering, is the online or classroom or corporate training, both in PMP and Lean Six Sigma. So in Lean Six Sigma, we are just offering trainings on yellow belt training, green belt training, and black belt training. All these training we are offering. And our major customers for this training is Hyundai Motor India Limited. So you have been aware of this company, Hyundai Motors. Then TÜV Germany, then Dices India, then L&D Valves in Chennai. So they are one of the biggest companies in India. Then Tata Communications, Mahindra and Mahindra Finance, Standard Chartered Bank, then Pfizer Healthcare Private Limited. So these are our leading customers for our training services. So the third type of services, whatever we are having, is the implementation of lean management in manufacturing and retail sector. So here we are catering to the needs of the uh, medium and small scale industries, micro and small scale enterprise companies, MSME companies in Chennai. And we are also serving a chain of supermarkets in Chennai. So we are just implementing the lean management in retail sectors and small companies. So this is a brief about my company. Then a small brief introduction about myself. So my name is Annamalai. I am a BTech graduate from one of the reputed institutes in India, that is IIT Varanasi, and I have around 30 plus years of experience in process management. So I have worked in both manufacturing and service domain, both in production and quality department in reputed organizations like Murugappa Group. So I was working for the AD Parry India Limited. Then I was also working for the Siemens component industry, component manufacturing industry. And I was also working in SBA Global, one of the giants in e-publishing in India. I was certified as a black belt way back in 2004 and was certified as a master black belt from the prestigious Indian Statistical Institute in Chennai in the year 2014. So I have vast experience in training and implementation of Lean and Six Sigma, both in the manufacturing and ITS sector. So I was certified as a project management professional, that is PMP, in the year 2011, and I have hands-on experience in applying the best practices of project management to complete projects on time and below budget. So I give consultancy both on PMP as well as Lean Six Sigma. So with this small introduction about my company and myself, I will just start going into the subject. So I will like to start with a small story from the greatest epic in India, that is Mahabharata. So there is one incident which is narrated in detail in the story in the epic. So this was an incident relating to the uh, teaching of archery for his disciples by Guru Dronacharya. All of you, many of you may be aware that Guru Dronacharya was actually the trainer for all the Pandavas and Kauravas. So for teaching them all the war-related skills. And one day he asked all his disciples, both Pandavas and Kauravas, to assemble near a river bed, and in order to test their knowledge, how far they have learnt about whatever he has taught. So he asked all of them to assemble, and then the target for them was to hit a bird which was made of clay and was placed on the top of a tree branch. And within one shot, they will have to hit the bird. So that was the target. So first he called Duryodhana, the eldest member of the and then he asked them to come and make a try. Then when Duryodhana came and then he was making himself ready, then Dronacharya asked him like what are you seeing? Then he told that okay, I'm seeing the river. Then he asked him like what else do you see? I'm seeing the mountain which is behind the river, and all those he was saying. And then Dronacharya told that okay, no need for you to make a try, and just quit. So like this, he was calling one by one all the Duryodhanas and Pandavas. And then even before asking him to attempt, he just told that he asked them some questions, but he was not satisfied with their answers. And then finally, he was asking them one by one to go off. Finally, the chance of Arjuna came. Then when Arjuna came, then he asked him like, "What are you seeing?" Then Arjuna told that I am seeing the bird. Then Drona asked him like, "What else are you seeing?" Then Arjuna told that I am seeing the eye of the bird. Then Dronacharya again asked him, "What else do you see?" So I am seeing the eyeball of the bird. Then Dronacharya just saw how he is taking the bow in his hand, how he is tying the string, how he is taking the aim of the bird, how far he is concentrating, assessing the speed of the breeze which is passing through, and whether he is taking care of that for while aiming at the bird. So once he was satisfied that all these parameters were right, then he told that okay, you go ahead and hit. Then Arjuna went ahead and then hit. Then that he just hit on target on the eyeball of the bird. So this is a small story, but this gives a lot of insight to how you need to solve your process problem, or how you need to focus on solving the process problem. So when we come to the basics of Six Sigma, the fundamental principle on which Six Sigma methodology is built, we call it as a process approach. So whatever I was trying to explain you was a process approach. So before understanding what is a process approach, let us try to understand what is the definition of a process. So a process is a set of activities done in order to convert the inputs into outputs. So that means we are having some inputs like raw materials, and then we are having a set manufacturing or a service process. So we are taking the inputs or the raw materials through these various stages of manufacturing or service processes, and then in order to get the right output, right? So process is a set of activities in order to convert the inputs into outputs. So a process approach is approach in which we are trying to solve a process problems by analyzing the problems in the input and the process condition. So that means whenever we say that we are having a problem, either it is a manufacturing problem or whether it is a service related problem or whether it is a software related company, any type of company, whether it's a construction company or whether it's a pharmaceutical company, whether it is a airplane manufacturing company, whatever it is, irrespective of whatever type of project we are having in the problem, processes we are having in the whatever the processes we are having, any process, chronic process problem can be solved by analyzing the problems in the input and the process. So many times we find that in our own companies, our superiors, supervisors, our engineers, and our managers and managing directors are always running behind the numbers with respect to the output, right? Every time you just come across a question from them, did you achieve your productivity yesterday? Where your rejections at the least lowest level, where your turnaround time adhered to, were you able to beat the customer deliveries on time. So always they were just putting pressure on you with respect to achieving your productivity or quality or turnaround time, which are all the outputs. We just go and tell them that okay, I have some small glitches in the machine. I have some new people have come in. They don't have the training, so they are unable to run the process efficiently and all. They always tell you, okay, just manage. Okay, just manage, run it because we cannot stop the machine or we cannot recruit a new person, and then you just carry on with that. So like that they always tell, but always they insist on having the output. So the Six Sigma methodology tells that if you take that route, then it will not be possible for you to get the right required output. So the basic philosophy of Six Sigma is control the inputs, control the process, then output will automatically be consistent and effective. So whenever you feel that there is a small hitch in the machine and whenever you get the least amount of time to set it right, you set right the machine. Whenever you find that okay, experienced people are not there, you just try to see who is the best person who can attend to that machine and then employ him for the machine. Whenever you feel that the people are not following the processes, you ensure that you just make some instruction or some visual process guidance so that they will be able to follow its good ways. So just make and then whenever any raw materials are coming, don't compromise on the quality of raw materials. And whenever you find this thing, don't afraid to reject it and send it back to the supplier. So once you are controlling the input and controlling the process conditions, then the output will automatically be consistent and effective. So this is what I was explained in the example I just gave you. So when Dronacharya was training his disciple, he was not focusing on the output. He would have clearly told that okay, now even he would have told that okay, I will give you 5 chances. So even if you are getting it once, then it will be good. No, he was very demanding. He told that I will give you only one chance, and then the first chance. And then when he was asking each and every of his disciples to come, he was just checking whether their input was correct, whether their bows and arrows were correct, and whether their string, the material in the string is whether that is correct, so whether the inputs is right, and whether the process conditions there, whether they are holding the bow correctly, whether they are aiming the arrow correctly, all those process conditions he was just monitoring. And then whenever he felt that the inputs were not right or the process conditions were not right, then he told that output will not come. There is a waste of time. Just don't even attempt. But when Arjuna came, he told that he found that the input he was good, correct, and all the process conditions he was managing correctly. Then he told that he was 200% confident that the output will definitely come. So he gave the clearance for him to hit the arrow, and then he went and hit the arrow. So this is what is the basic principle of Six Sigma. That is, control the inputs, control the process, then output will automatically be consistent and effective. Okay. So whenever we are talking about the process, so you always find that there is always a variability in the process. there is always a variability in process. Variability is always inevitable. Say, for example, you are every day you are attending office and you are traveling from home to office. Say, assume that the distance is around 30 kilometers. So, do you mean to say that these 30 kilometers always you cover in a very narrow range of time, say around 45 minutes every day? No, it is not possible, right? Where sometimes you travel the distance in just in 30 minutes, and sometimes it may take around 90 minutes also. So there is always a variation between 30 minutes to 90 minutes, right? Even though on an average you will take around 50 minutes or 52 minutes, but the variation will always be there. Some days it will be as low as 30 minutes when there is no traffic at all, when the traffic signals always show you green whenever you pass that, and the road conditions are very good, when the climatic conditions are very good. So when everything is ideal, then you will reach in the fastest time. But when everything is not favorable to you, when the maybe traffic is very high, road conditions are not good. Whenever you just hit the traffic, then just whenever you are about to pass it through the red signal and all those things, then again it will take a maximum of 90 minutes, right? So any process, variability in any process is inevitable. Any type of process, whatever is there, which is happening in the universe, there is a variability. It will always be there. So in all our processes, the variations in the inputs and the variation in the process conditions lead to variation in the output or the desired results. So whenever we find that there is a variation in the output, the variation in the output is caused by the variations in the inputs and the process conditions. So sometimes what happens is the variations in the process is too large, so that we get the outputs not in the acceptable level, so that we produce defect. So whenever you find that always our customers always give some sort of a tolerance, right? Say for example, you have to supply some rods with 10 millimeters plus 10 millimeters, then they always will give you a tolerance that okay 9.5 to 10.5 mm is allowed, right? So that means they will accept a minimum of 9.5 mm diameter and a maximum they will go 10.5. So even if there is going to be a variation of your inputs and variation of your process condition, then you will be able to produce within the tolerance, right? But sometimes what happens is if there is some huge variation is there in the raw material or in the process condition, so sometimes then it may drastically go out of spec. So sometimes it may come as low as 9, or sometimes it may go as maybe 10.9 or 11 or something like that, so that the product is now no more acceptable, it is rejected. So we call this as a defect. So the Six Sigma methodology helps in reducing the defect by reducing the variations in the process to real zero level. So that means through the Six Sigma methodology, you will be able to identify what are the critical inputs and the critical process conditions which have major impact on the output. For example, you are having a raw material. So the raw material maybe suppose hardness may be one of them, and the process condition, the speed with which you are running. So the speed with which you are running and the hardness of the material will will lead to the required output, required dimensional stability of the output whatever you are doing. So whenever you are able to reduce the hardness of your input raw material, and whenever you are running the motor at a very narrow range of speed, then always you will be able to get the required dimensional stability of the output. So again, again I'm insisting, Six Sigma methodology will always tell you reduce the variations in the inputs, reduce the variations in the process condition by having a very close control on this. Then your output will automatically be very consistent. So I'm just giving you an example of before and after. So on the left hand side, you see that before. So for example, we are talking about a rejections in a particular process, and you can see that in the left hand side in the before column, you can see it is varying from maybe 15% to 25%. So the rejection is varying from 15 to 25%. Okay, the variation is very high, and the average is around 21%, which is also very high. So you take up a Six Sigma project to reduce the rejection. So whenever you are doing a project, Six Sigma project in the correct way, then normally it takes around 5 to 6 sprints. So after completing the project, you find that the variability is coming down, and also the rejections also are coming down. So if you see the right hand side, the after, you can find that the rejections has come down to around 8%, and the variation has come down to maybe 5 to 10%, right? So you find that the variation has also reduced, and the improvement has also taken place, that the defects have also reduced. So whenever you are doing a Six Sigma project, you can always find that the variations will come down and the improvement also will be there. That the defect reduction also will. So now I come to the basic definition of Six Sigma methodology. So a Six Sigma is a data-driven statistical methodology. So as I was telling you, Six Sigma helps you to reduce the variations in the output. So it is not that any Six Sigma, any problems you have process problems, then you just take a problem and then you do a Six Sigma project, and within 1 month you will get the results. No, that is not at all possible. So Six Sigma is a very structured approach. So it is a data-driven approach. So whenever you are talking about a process problem, then you will have to collect a lot of accurate data. So you will have to collect a lot of data, and then you will have to apply a lot of statistical tools for analyzing and improving. And then during the control phase also, you will have to use a lot of statistical tools. So the unique features of Six Sigma methodology is that it is a data-driven methodology, and it is helped by statistical tools, so that you will be able to improve the quality and performance of the services to the highest level. So by reducing the variability in the process. So whenever a process is running at a Six Sigma level of quality, the number of expected defects is 3.4 defects per billion hours. So assume that aeroplane landing is a process, right? Or aeroplane taking off is a process. So if this particular process is running under Six Sigma level, then there will be a defective landing or there will be a defective takeoff only 3 times per million opportunity. That means when million landings are happening in a day or in a month, only 3 landings can go wrong. So you can find that the defect rate is very, very low. And you would have heard that Six Sigma, some companies say that we are a Six Sigma company. So there is nothing called a Six Sigma company, right? Because Six Sigma methodology is applicable for process, is not applicable for a company. A company can say that yes, we are practicing Six Sigma methodology, but they cannot say that we are a Six Sigma company. Why? Because in a company there are a lot of processes which are coming in, right? There is a production process, there is a quality process, there is a sales process, there is a purchase process, there is a maintenance process. So many processes are there, and then depending upon the criticality and depending upon the importance to the company, so the company will undertake some Six Sigma projects in specific processes in order to improve their efficiency. So only in those processes, then the maximum level they can achieve is Six Sigma company. So it is not that at any point of time, all the processes in a company can be running at Six Sigma level. So there is no concept like a Six Sigma company. It is only a Six Sigma process. Okay. Then the third important point is Six Sigma. It is a collection of tools for solving process problems. So this Six Sigma methodology was evolved in 1986. So Motorola was the company who are manufacturing these electronic components and electronic and TVs and mobiles and all. So they were the people who really who first introduced this concept in the world in 1980. So the effort for developing this methodology started when the CEO of the company talked to their senior management, and he told them that the quality and services of Motorola has become so bad that it has started stinking. So we need to do something about it. And then he put all his best people to find out a way of coming out of the problem. And then the Six Sigma methodology was evolved. So there was no new tools or no new concepts were developed because of Six Sigma. It was only a collection of tools and techniques and concepts which are already prevalent in the industry and the globe, and then it was consolidated into a methodology, and we put it as a Six Sigma methodology, right? So just to give an analogy, suppose you are finding that you are in one of your room, the light is not glowing, right? So the light is like gone bad. Then what do you do? You just call your electrician. So does the electrician come empty-handed? No. He comes out with a kit box. So what does the kit box contains? So it contains some spare parts. It contains some tools, right? What type of tools? Maybe like tester, some screwdrivers, and then some testing lamp and cutting plier. All those tools he'll be having, right? So once he comes in and want to attend to the problem, so he is using some tools to analyze what is the problem, right? So he uses the tester to see whether light is coming to the switchboard, right? So then he says that, okay, the light is coming to the switchboard, so there is no problem. Then he goes to the adapter to which the light is attached and then see whether the power is coming there. So if the power is not coming there, then he says that, okay, there is something wrong between the switchboard and the adapter. Then accordingly, he will be able to plan his next step. So he is using, and then whenever he wants to solve the problem, again, he again uses some tools to solve the problem. So he is using the toolbox effectively for analyzing and solving the problem. Same way, Six Sigma is a collection of tools, mostly the statistical tools. So these tools should be useful to you for analyzing the problem and solving the problem. So whenever you are taking the training for yellow belt or green belt or black belt, you are exposed to this analysis tool and statistical tool so that you will be able to analyze the problems and solve your process problem. Okay. So remember that Six Sigma is nothing but a collection of tools and techniques for analyzing and solving the problem. It gives you exposure to lot of analytical tools. So Six Sigma helps in increasing customer satisfaction and profits to a great extent. So in order to initiate a Six Sigma project, always we start with the customer satisfaction. So whenever you initiate a project, first you ask the question whether there is a customer dissatisfaction. Yes, the customer is dissatisfied. Okay, then you take up a project to solve the problem. And then by solving that, are you going to get more benefits? Are you going to save any costing? Are you going to earn more revenue? Yes, there is going to be a great financial impact is going to be there. Then you take up a project. So taking up a Six Sigma project will help you to improve your customer satisfaction and improve your profitability to a very great extent. So these two reasons, that is the customer satisfaction and the financial benefit, are the two main drivers for taking up a Six Sigma. So this is actually a table which shows that at different sigma levels, what is the defect rate. Okay, so you can see that at the Six Sigma level, the defect rate is only 3 per million. When the process is running at 5 sigma, then the rejection is around 233 ppm or 233 parts per million, right? 233 defects per million opportunity. So most of the Indian companies run at a sigma level of 3 to 4. So that means the rejection will be around 0.6%, 62% to 6.67%, right? So it is not possible for you to jump from say a sigma level of 3.5 to 6 in one go. So normally what you do is you take up a process which is running at maybe 3.5 or 3.6, and then you set a target that you will achieve a sigma level of say 4.1 or 4.2, and then you make some improvements, and then you stabilize at that 4.1 or 4.2, and then you next set your target for achieving 4.5 or 4.2. So gradually over a period of 3 to 4 years, then you will be able to achieve that 6 level. So that is how it is being done. It is not like possible for you to jump overnight to 6 sigma level. It needs a lot of hard work. Okay, the methodology whatever you are following in Six Sigma methodology, we call it as a DMAIC methodology. So as I told you, whenever you are want to solve a process problem through Six Sigma methodology, it is not that okay, you just take the problem and within 1 month you get the results. So it is not possible. So you will have to follow a systematic approach. So what is the systematic approach? You will have to follow 5 different phases. So the first one we call that as a define phase. So in the define phase, we define the problem. Say for example, you are finding in one of your processes, you are finding that your rejection rate is very high at 15%. Okay, and then because of that, the monetary loss to the company is maybe around 3 crore rupees per annum, right? So now it is a very big problem for the company because since the rejection rate is very high, so that means there are huge losses, and then you are then again the variation is there in the rejection, so that you are unable to predict the customer deliveries because whenever you are about to deliver, you find that there is a lot of rejection in that particular lot, and then again you have to start a new batch. So again your rejection is very high, so you are unable to keep the on-time delivery. Your quality also gets affected. So that is the problem, right? So currently your process is rejection is around 15%. So then you will have to say that you will have to fix the target. So what is the target you want to achieve? So maybe you want to reduce the rejection from 15% to 10%. Okay. So now we have having a problem for the last 1 or 2 years of the high rejections at 15%, and the goal will be to reduce the rejections from 15% to 10% within 6 months. So this is how you prepare the defense statement, and then you just assess what is going to be the benefit to the company. So there is going to be a financial benefit to the company. Maybe the annual savings will be around 1 lakh. What is the timeline? So you are going to do this within 6 months. So by this time you are going to start. By this time you are going to complete the define phase. By this time you are going to start the measure phase. By this time you are going to complete the measure phase. So all those planning you have to make, and then you have to define the scope of the project. So what are all the process which are going to be covered under the project, and what are the process that are not being covered, and then any risk is there you have to identify. So you just make a very high level document and define the project. So the key elements to be defined are the problem statement, the goal statement, then the financial benefits, and the timeline. Okay. And then once you have defined the problem, it is very, very easy for you to solve. You can take for granted that 50% of your problem is solved if you have defined the problem very clearly. Many times the companies are unable to define the problem very specifically, and then they want to take up a very huge and complex problem to solve a 60 project. And then because of the very high wide and scope, the project may end up as a failure. So you have to be very careful whenever you are defining the problem, whenever you are scoping the project, whenever you are fixing the timeline. And you have to ensure that the adequate resources are available in terms of hardware, software, and manpower. Okay. So that is what is happening in the define phase. So after the define phase is completed, then we go to the measure phase. So during the measure phase, we collect a lot of data. So what is the type of data? We try to first we start with a brainstorming session, and we do a cause and effect diagram or a fishbone diagram to identify what are all the potential causes for the rejections. We told that very high rejection is there, 15% rejection is there. So what are all the potential list of causes which may cause? So whenever you do a brainstorming session and do a cause and effect diagram, you may be able to identify around 35 to 40 reasons. Then you just prioritize those causes using your knowledge and experience, and then limit it to maybe around top 10 to or 5 causes, and then you just start collecting the data. So that means when these are the causes and these input parameters and these process conditions are running under this settings, then my output parameter is like this. Say for example, when raw material of batch A running under a temperature of 200 degrees centigrade at the 50 PSI pressure, then the rejection is 17%. So like this, under the different input and process condition, what is the output we are getting, so that you just keep on collecting the data. So while data collection, you have to be very careful that whatever the data you are collecting is very accurate. Why it should be accurate? Because we are going to put this data into statistical tools. And you know that statistical tools are not mandate, are not humans, right? So whatever the data you give, they do some mathematical calculation, and based on the calculation, they will give the output. So it is just like garbage in, garbage out. If you give accurate data to the statistical tool, then it will give you the accurate result. If your data is not accurate, then that will give you a misleading information, which will not be helpful for the project to be completed successfully. So the data accuracy is very, very important. Okay. And then once you have collected the data, then during the analyze phase, then you will have to put this data into the statistical tools. So there are a lot of statistical tools available, like regression, hypothesis testing, and so many different statistical tools are available. So this statistical tool will help you to identify the critical 2 or 3 input or process variables which is having the maximum impact on the output. So for example, as I was telling you, maybe it may say that for the higher rejections in the process, maybe the running speed of the motor and the temperature of the temperature under which is process. So the temperature and the running speed of the motor. So these two are the critical parameters that has impact on the rejection. So likewise, the statistical tool will help you to identify the critical parameters which has maximum impact on the output parameter. Then the output of the analyzed phase is the validated root causes for the problem. Then once you have identified and validated the critical root causes for the problem, then you move on to the improve phase. So in the improve phase, you try to find the solution of how you are going to control these 2 or 3 critical parameters, which is having the major impact on the output. Then you can use some statistical tools for solving the problem, or you can use some creative reasoning and creative analysis tools, or you can use some lean tools like 5S, Cockayoke, and so many different lean tools are available. So you taking the help of these tools, you just develop a solution, and then during the improve phase, you run a pilot run, and you test it under the pilot run, and prove that whatever the target you want to achieve, you are able to get it. That means with the one batch of the material, you just try to closely monitor and control the input and process conditions which you have identified through the analysis tool, and then run it and see whether you are consistently getting the expected yield. You are able to control the rejection near about around 10%. So that means once you are able to prove that you are able to consistently get for that particular output in the pilot scale, so that means your improved phase is completed. Then in the control phase, then you'll have to come out with a plan of how you are going to implement it by full scale. That means the regular production. On a day-to-day basis, how we are going to control this process and the inputs. The major critical ones, whatever you are identifying. And then you will have to implement the improvement plan for the entire. So you have to scale up with the control. And then after the scaling up is completed, you'll have to monitor and control this input and output parameter at least for 1 year to see whether it is consistent. Because many times what happens is maybe the improvement we are able to sustain for maybe 1 or 2 months. So what happens is slowly over a period of time it gets digressed, and then slowly we just go back to the old state. So that should not happen. So normally for any of the Six Sigma project, the process parameters and the output parameters are closely monitored for 1 year to see really whether we are able to consistently get the required output and consistently we are able to get the benefits. So this is in short about how the Six Sigma project is done, about the DMAIC methodology. Then what are the different types of certification that is happening in Six Sigma? So I will just, there are many other roles out there, but I'm just limiting because of the lack of time. I'm just limiting myself to only 3 roles. That is the yellow belts, green belts, and black belts. So I will start with the yellow belts. So in the yellow belts, it is normally a training of 1 or 2 days is given to the participant, and they are exposed to the general concepts of Six Sigma, and then during the define, measure, and control phase. Okay. So what are the tools and techniques they should use for define? What are the tools and techniques they can use for data collection? And what are the tools and techniques they can use for control phase? So they will be, and then regarding the analyze and improve phase, they will get only a very high level information. They will not get in-depth knowledge, because the role of a yellow belt is to give a helping hand for a project which is run by a green belt or black belt. So yellow belts normally they do not lead a project. So they will be the team members of a Six Sigma project team. So they are exposed to, they have very limited exposure to the tools and techniques specifically related to the define, measure, and control phases. So they will be mainly helpful for the data collection during the measure phase, and then during the control phase, they will be able to help you in monitoring and control the process conditions, so that you will be able to consistently get the required output. Then the green belts are normally they can run a small independent project in their own department, or they can help the black belts in their project. So they get more exposure when compared to the yellow belts, especially in the analyze and improve tools. So they are also exposed to a lot of statistical tools, so that they will be able to run a Six Sigma project within their own department. Say suppose I am a supervisor and I am responsible for the small department having some 2 different processes. Then I can do a project in the small department, so that everything is in my control. The raw material, the machines and the process, everything is in my control, so that I will be able to do a project and complete it without any dependency on the external department. So that is what is the role of a green belt. The black belts are normally people who lead the complex process problems, which is maybe for this they may have to coordinate with the different departments, and the problem is very complex. So they are also getting exposure to a lot of complex statistical tools. So you need people with good leadership qualities, because they have to manage a lot of people from the other departments also, and they should be clever enough to pick up the understand and pick up the usage of the complex statistical tools. So they will be running a very complex project running. So with this, I am just completing the theoretical portion. So to recap, Six Sigma is the fundamental concept is a process approach. So it helps you to, it says that control the inputs, control the process conditions, then your output will automatically be consistent. And then it also helps you to reduce the variability in the process. So by reducing the variations, it will also help you to reduce the defect rate. And the defect rate in a Six Sigma process is around only 3 within for every million, only there will be a rejection of only 3. And then it is a data-based and statistical oriented methodology. So you need to collect a lot of data, and then you need to apply statistical tools for analyzing and solving the problems. And then you cannot get results overnight. So it has to be a systematic approach, that is a demand cycle, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And the different roles like yellow belt, black belt, and green belt, that also is. So now what I will do is I will just give you a small case study, so that you will be able to understand it better. So whenever you want to start a Six Sigma project, there has to be a very strong business case. So what is a business case? A business case is the very strong reason why you should do the project, right? Because until unless the senior management is very much interested in running the project, then you will not get the proper support for the running the project, and then the project may not be successful. So the business case has to be very, very strong. So I just do a small, this thing is based on my own experience, real life experience. So just I will just give the business case. Like just after her summer vacation, one day I saw my daughter looking very sad. So when I asked her like why you are sad, what is the reason? So reluctantly she told that after the summer vacation, when they went for the classes for the new year, then all her classmates were narrating their wonderful vacations during the holidays in the class, and she was feeling very bad that as she had nothing to narrate, because we didn't go for any holidays and we didn't go out anywhere for the holidays. So she was not having anything to narrate to her classmates. So I was feeling even bad, because even though I have been earning around $120,000 per annum, I did not have enough savings to spend for the vacation. So I was feeling bad that I was unable to take my daughter and take my family to a vacation. Then I thought that the root cause of the problem is that I am not saving enough. Then I thought that okay, why don't I apply a Six Sigma methodology in order to find a solution to the problem? Because I find that even for the last 5 years, this problem was happening, that I was unable to save any money, whatever I am earning. Okay. So then, as I was telling you, the Six Sigma project will really start with the customer. We really need to understand who is the customer, what is their problem, how we can solve the problem. So here, in this case, the customer is my daughter, because I want to satisfy her. So there is a dissatisfaction in my customer, that is my daughter. So I need to solve it. And then what metric I want to improve? The metric for improvement is the savings. Because if I have the saving, then only I will be able to take her to the holidays, and then I will be able to satisfy her. So the metric for improvement is the saving. Then what is the problem statement? So the problem statement says that savings from a salary is 0% against a targeted saving of 5% for the last 5 years. That means for the last 5 years, I have been trying to save around 5% of my salary, but always at the end of the year, I was ending up 0 or negative. So that it is a chronic problem. The problem is existing for the last 5 years. And then the goal statement says that I want to, at the end of the project, I want to increase the savings from 0% to 5% of my salary within 3 months. So that means I will take up a project and then I will try to improve my savings to 5%. So the expected annual saving is around 5% of 120,000, that is 6,000. The project timeline is 3 months. So I thought that I will be able to complete the project. So this is what is the define phase. So as I was telling you when I was explaining the device cycle, so we have identified the customer, we have identified the metric for improvement, what we want to improve. Then we have identified what is the problem, and then we have quantified the problem, and we have also given an indication about how chronic is the problem. And then we also have set the target, we have set the goal in terms of how much improvement we want and by when we want this improvement. And then we have also estimated the benefit because of the project. So all these things are the minimum requirements of during the defense phase, so that we are very clear about what we really want to achieve at the end of the project. Then in the measure phase, we need to collect, as I told you, we need to collect a lot of accurate data. So fortunately, myself and my wife, both of us have a very good habit of noting down our daily expenses. Or that was, even though we were very bad at savings, then at least we were good enough to have the accurate data. So what we did was, for the last 1 year, we had just whatever the expenses we have done, we just try to categorize them into different categories, like a rent, food, shopping, local travel, and so many other, right? So under this individual category, so what is the expenses we have done for the whole year under each of this category? Okay. So for the rent, it is 37,500. Food is 30,000. So on like that. So total was adding up to 120,000. And then we just arrange with the total expenses in the decimal to identify what can be our focus area. So theoretically speaking, I should have focused more on rent because that is the topmost contributor. But again, when we really thought about it and I discussed with my wife, we find that since both of us were working, and then this was house was in a location which was really nearer to both of our offices, and then it was nearer to, like, we had a very good school for the kids in the nearby area, and this is the one of the best possible rent we can get. And then even if you shift to other places, then we may get a cheaper place, but again that will lead to a lot of hardship, and that is really not worth it. Then we thought, okay, maybe the rent there is not much scope for improvement. Then we just try to analyze whether what we can do on food. So food, we ourselves are very much surprised. So are we spending 30,000 so much? That means around $2,500 only on food. So that actually was a revelation to us, because we were not expecting that we would have been spending so much. Because many times it happened to us. It is everything is happening on a daily basis. We don't realize until unless we collect the data, summarize, and then see the numbers. Once we saw these numbers, we ourselves were very much quite shocked. Then we thought that, okay, then this is the area we will focus. Then we thought, so the collecting the data at the very high level helped us to identify what is the focus area on which we can do the improvement. So we decided that we will focus on the food. So our aim was to, now in food alone, we will try to achieve the reduction of 6,000. That means from 30,000 to 24,000, $6,000 reduction. So at this stage, even I can go back and then change my problem statement and goal statement. So instead of the whole expenses, I can say that I want to reduce the food expenses from 30,000 to 24,000, right? So here again, because if you talk about the whole expenses, then what will happen is maybe the at the later point of time, other expenses may go up, and then your overall expenses may come down. So here we are, it is very focused. The problem is very much focused. So we want to reduce the cost on food. Then once we have collected the first level of high level of data and identify the focus area, then we just started the second level of information. So we just try to identify what is the month by month, what is the money we have spent on food. So you can find that this is the month-wise data. You can find that the minimum amount whatever you spent was during February, which was $1,650, and during December was the highest, which was $3,750. So you can find that there is a huge variation of around $2,100. So it is ideally it can be taken up as a 6-month project because the variation is very high. Okay, and then what we did is we started trying to analyze the data. Then what are the different materials on which we are spending on food? So then we categorize. We just took the data So like wheat, pulses, meat, oil, grocery items, ice creams, snacks, coffee and tea, restaurants, vegetables, fruits, butter, bread, milk, etc. So these are the different items on which we are spending the money on food. Then again during the analysis phase, we wanted to prioritize or focus on only because we know that in all the 15 or 20 possible causes, we cannot focus on all the 15 or 20, then the project will not be focused. So we wanted to identify the top 2 or 3 focus areas. So in order to do that, we just used one of the tools. We call that as a cost effect matrix. So what is cost effect matrix? Because this is a very we don't have the time to explain this tool here in detail, but this will help you to identify which is going to be the critical inputs that is having the major impact. So here we are finding about we want to reduce the cost. So cost has been identified as one of the output variables. But again, some people may say that okay, cost can be like we can cut down on the spending on food by reducing whatever is really uh, needed for your body, so that like after doing the completing the project, you may end up in uh, deteriorating your health. So again, you should not take any actions like that. So that is the reason why we have identified both these as a output variable, cost and health problem. That means we want to take some actions so that the cost is also reduced at the same time without compromising on the health. So cost should come down without compromising on the health problem. So that is the reason why we did this analysis and we identified 4 areas where we can do the improvement. That means on meat, restaurants, oil, ice creams and chocolates. So these were the 4 different specific causes on which we wanted to focus. Then during the improve phase, then we took some action. So what are the different actions we took? Reduce the consumption of meat from twice a week to once a week. So before the project was done, we were having meat during the weekend, both on Saturdays and Sundays. But now we thought that okay, we will do it only once in a week, only on Sundays. Then reduce the consumption of oil from 4 liters per month to 2 liters per month. Again, we had and we found that again we are consuming a lot of oil, again, which is not good for our health also. So again, which is also costing money. So we thought we will reduce the oil consumption from 4 liters per month. Then reduce the number of visits to restaurants from once in a week to once in 2 weeks. So again, you know that restaurant food is not good for health. So we just reduce it from once in a week to twice, from twice a week to once in a week to once in 2 weeks. Then we reduce the consumption of ice creams and chocolates, which you know are not really contributing to our health. So by taking actions on all these 4, then we found that all these actions we resulted in an annual cost savings of around $6,000. Okay. And then to our surprise, we found that because now we have reduced all the items which are detrimental to our health, we found that our health expenses also, which was around $5,500 before the project, that also came down to $2,000. So this was a unexpected savings. So this normally happens in a Six Sigma project. Because many times what we happen is, say, suppose you ask your people, workmen or your staff to improve the productivity, then they will come and tell you that okay, I will do some changes so that will improve my productivity, but that will lead to a compromise in quality. So you just agree for that, then I will take some action for productivity. Same way, you ask them to improve the quality, then they will say that okay, I will do some changes so that the quality will be improved, but again productivity will be come down. So are you willing for that? So always in our mind, we always think that whenever we want to improve the quality, that means productivity will come down, or whenever you want to improve the productivity, the quality will come down. But Six Sigma is the only methodology where, since you are identifying the root causes of the problem and you are finding a permanent solution for the problem, both your contradicting requirements should be met. That means both your quality will also improve and productivity also will improve. Like how we have seen in this case, by reducing the expenses on food, I have not compromised on the health. In fact, my health, the spendings on health also has come down because I have now understood the importance of my health, how the food is contributing to the health. So I am just very health conscious now, which has helped me to reduce the cost not only on the food but also on the health. So in the control phase, we will have to really see whether we are able to uh, control and sustain the improvement. So you can see in the left hand side, this is the before data. So whatever the data I showed in the table, So for the 12 months from January to February, so this, you can see that there was a lot of variation was there, and the average expenses was coming to around $2,500. So after the project is completed, you can find that the variation has come down, and you can also see that the mean expenditure also has come down to 2,000. So there is a reduction of mean spending from $2,500 per month to $2,000 per month, and there is a very good improvement in the variability also. Variability also has been substantially reduced. So now what is the current status? So since I have practiced this for the last 5 years, I find that my annual saving has increased by 10% for the last 5 years. After the completing also, I am able to sustain this improvement for the last 5 years. I am able to make save around 10%. And then my expenses on health and loan repayment have come down. Since I am saving more money, I am able to make some loan payments in advance so that my expenses on loan repayment also has come down. And as a part of the project, I have reduced my health also. So in addition to saving on food, I have reduced my expenses both on health and repayment. So these two are what we call as a hard saving. Hard saving means whatever the saving, you can just measure in terms of the dollar terms, hard saving. And the next two are, we call that as a soft saving, which are very important, but you cannot measure in terms of dollar value. What is that? Every year I enjoy vacation with my family in an exotic location. And most important of all, I can see happiness in my daughter's face during vacation, for which I can never fix a monetary value. So you can find that in your company, even though there may be some projects which may be taken up to, for cost impact. Again, the projects on customer satisfaction or employee loyalty or employee satisfaction also are very, very good way of very good outcome of the good projects. So with this, I'm just concluding my session. So both on the theoretical and practical part of it. And then I would like to end this session with telling you what are the different advantages of taking the training in HQ. As I told you, in Six Sigma, we are offering training in yellow belt, black belt, and green belt. Okay. So you can see that this is only a demo presentation, and you can find that this is a very simple and easy to understand presentation, but without compromising on the complexity or quality of the content. So you have seen that while explaining you about the basics of Six Sigma, again the quality of the content has not been compromised, but we have tried our best to make it very easy and simple to understand. So this is one of the unique feature of our trainings. Then the second important unique thing is that we give a lot of real life examples for easier understanding of concept. So you would have seen that I have told some stories, and then whenever I took the case study, it was a real life experience. And many times I have seen that this exposure to Six Sigma methodology has helped me not only in my professional life but in my personal life also. So every time, because your mind is always tuned to approach any problem as in a process approach. Okay, there are inputs to any process. There is an input to a process. There are some process conditions. You control this, then the output will automatically. So this will help you to improve your personal life also. Then whenever we are taking the training, we give a lot of examples from manufacturing, service, or software development also to enable participants to relate to their area of work. Since I have exposure to manufacturing and service industry, and I also have exposure to software development, because in the both the companies wherever I have worked in manufacturing and services, I have also involved in the software development in terms of the ERP and workflow management tool. So I have played the role of business consultant, and I also assisted the teams in the user acceptance testing, that is the UAT. So I can just speak in the language of software development people also. So depending upon the composition of my training batch, I will just give ample examples from my own experience. I will be able to give a experience which you can relate to your area of work. Then, unfortunately, this session we were unable to interact because of the limitations we had, since it is a very short session. But normally, the sessions, whether it is an online session or whether it's a classroom session, it is very interactive sessions. And then I always believe in the way of asking more questions and then trying to get the answers from the participants themselves so that their understanding is better. And not always, as you have found, the presentations will contain a lot of relevant images. And then during the real training, we use a lot of videos also so that you'll be able to understand the concept very And the last but not the very least, this is a very, very important and unique feature available only with IceCube. That is, we just give a green belt or black belt project guidance under simulated conditions relating to your area of work. Because many times what may happen is you may like to, many of companies, they offer you the green belt or black belt training, but you don't get exposure to how to use these tools in your real life work. And in your real life work, you will not be able to take a Six Sigma project because maybe in the kind of your company they are not really focused on doing Six Sigma. So you may like attend a training session. You may be certified as a green belt or a black belt, but you find that what are the concepts you have learned, you are unable to apply in your any area of work or anywhere you will be able to apply. So over a period of 2 to 3 years, whatever you have learned, is just you have applied. But here we just give you a guidance, project guidance, so that depending upon your in your area of work, you can select a problem, and then we will give you some sort of a dummy data, some so that we will be able to simulate some conditions related to your real life project, and then you will be able to apply these tools and techniques, and then you will be able to run a lot of. So along with the training, we also give a project guidance. So with this, I would like to conclude my training session. And then one other important thing is